So, can a song be a weapon? I mean, can a playlist actually be an act of war? It sounds wild, right? Well, today we're diving into a piece of music that's sitting right on that razor's edge. It's going to force us to ask a really tough question. Where does art stop and propaganda start? Let's get into it.
So, let's just start with this. The music El Makabelico creates is propaganda for the terrorist group Cartel Del Noreste. Wow. Okay, so right off the bat, you know this isn't going to be your typical music review. This is a direct quote from a denouncement, a really stark, serious accusation, and it's what this whole explainer is built around. We're not just talking about some controversial artist here. We're talking about music that's allegedly being used to serve a designated terrorist organization.
Okay, so who exactly is the artist at the center of all this? And what are the specific charges being thrown at him and his music? Let's really break down the core of this accusation.
All right, so here are the key players. The source is crystal clear. The artist, El Makabelico. His alleged affiliation, the Cartel Del Noreste. And look, the accusations are heavy. We're not just talking criminal here, but terrorist. And his music? They're calling it straight-up propaganda. This is the foundation for everything we're about to unpack.
Now, when you make accusations this serious, you've got to have some evidence, right? But here's the crazy part. The primary exhibit, it's not some secret recording or a leaked file. Nope, it's a song. A song that was released for anyone and everyone to hear.
And that song is called Topon De Villa Union. So for our purposes, we're going to treat this track as more than just music. Think of it like a historical document, a chronicle of a very specific, very violent event, and it's all told from the perspective of the people who started it. But before we get into the lyrics, we have to understand the title. Topon. Now this isn't just a meeting or a get-together. No way. It's slang for a violent confrontation, a clash, basically a shootout. So the title itself is telling you exactly what you're in for, a song about a brutal gunfight.
Okay, so let's get into the song itself and see how the story unfolds. You can actually break the narrative down into 3 distinct acts. It's almost like listening to a short, really violent movie script that's been put to music.
So, Act 1. This is all about setting the scene. The lyrics paint this picture of a massive show of force. We're talking a heavily armed convoy from the Cartel Del Noreste just rolling into the town of Villa Union. And you gotta understand, this is no quiet, stealthy operation. This is a full-on invasion. And listen to the detail here in the lyrics. On the road, more than 40 trucks in a line marked and armored. I mean, come on, he's specifying more than 40 trucks, all of them marked and armored. That's not just some poetic flourish, right? That's a boast. It's a clear statement about their logistical and military power. And it's all designed to project this image of overwhelming force.
Which brings us to Act 2, the declaration. So they've already shown up in force. They've established their physical presence. Now the lyrics pivot to straight-up psychological warfare. It's clear they're not just passing through. They are there to claim this territory as their own.
In this line, wow, this is just chilling. Welcome to Coahuila. The devil came out to play in Villa Union. That welcome is delivered like a punch to the gut. It's a threat. And following it up with, the devil came out to play, I mean, that's an unmistakable message to any rivals. And to the people who live there, this place is ours now.
And finally, we get to Act 3. This is the violent climax and the aftermath. The song doesn't just, describe a fight. It revels in the victory. It uses this really graphic, triumphant language to detail how they crushed their enemies.
The language here is so intentionally crude, so mocking. We gave it to them in their mother and baby bottle. That is a deeply, deeply insulting taunt. It's totally designed to humiliate their defeated rivals, and at the same time glorify the cartel's own brutality. It's all about framing their violence as total, absolute dominance.
Okay, so we've heard the story that the song tells. But how exactly does that story function as propaganda? Let's peel back the layers and look at the specific techniques they're using in these lyrics.
Just look at this. I mean, verse 6 isn't just about a gunfight. It's basically a detailed inventory of a military-grade arsenal. He's naming specific weapons, the mini machine gun, the double 50 cal, the M60, even a grenade launcher. That level of detail, that's not an accident. It serves as a very credible threat. It's sending a message to their rivals that says, hey, this is what we've got, and trust us, we know how to use it. And this is where you can see how all the pieces fit together like a puzzle. The song names individuals like Mondo Ricky or El Chema. That builds up internal legends, a kind of mythos. The territorial claims, welcome to Coahuila, that's pure intimidation.
Glorifying the violence, well, that's a classic recruitment tool, and it also desensitizes people to it. And then, get this, they even compare the scene to places like Pakistan and Iraq, which is just a wild way to portray their power as if they're on the same level as an actual army.
You know, the song doesn't just fade out. It ends with a roll call, a whole series of shout-outs to specific cartel members. Some are active, some are in prison, some are dead. And what that does is it acts like a tribute and an internal memo all at once. It reinforces that group identity, and it basically turns these guys into martyrs and heroes inside their own story.
All right, so let's pull back for a second and look at the big picture here. When you take the whole story, this narrative of the gunfight, and you combine it with all these specific propaganda techniques we've just talked about, you're left with something way more complex than just a song.
This song, El Topon De Villa Union, it's working on so many different levels at once. For the cartel's enemies, it's a battle report. For their own guys, it's a massive morale booster. And for the public, it's a tool of terror. It's building their mythology, it's communicating their power, and it's cementing a legacy of violence, all in under 4 minutes.
And that really brings us right back to the question we started with. When a song chronicles the actions of a terrorist group, when it glorifies their violence and serves their strategic goals, has that music crossed some kind of line? Where do you even draw the boundary between artistic expression and what is essentially an act of warfare? That's a heavy question, and definitely something to think about.